Hey y'all, welcome back to In the Kitchen with Baker Girl. Jesus, is another beautiful day to be in the kitchen. Today, I'm going to show you how to make this delicious, beautiful, buttery French bread called brioche. It is rich with butter and eggs and a little bit of sugar. And it makes the best bread you will ever bite into. This bread is so good, it needs no other adornments, and it's perfect for French toast. So that's what we're going to be baking today on In the Kitchen with Baker Girl. So stay tuned. Now, in the first episode of our brioche masterclass, we made the actual dough for this delicious brioche recipe. We mixed the dough. We let the dough prove, and the dough is risen, adding in all of the butter. Now we are moving on to actually shaping these delicious loaves. So for that episode, be sure to click the link above in the iCards to watch that full video. For part 1, now we are moving on to step 2. So while the brioche dough is rising, I'm going to make a filling for one of the doughs that, one of the portions that I'm going to make. Because as I say, this is a base recipe, so you can use it any way you like. So here in this, I have some freeze-dried strawberries. And this is exactly what they look like. They look just like whole strawberries that are freeze dried, and you're gonna pulse these into a powder. That's why I'm using this little blender thing here. So I'm just gonna pulse these into a fine powder. Then in this bowl, I have some softened room temperature cream cheese. I've got some confectioner sugar and a little bit of lemon juice. I'm gonna combine those and blend up these freeze-dried strawberries till you get a fine powder consistency. Woo! It's like a fine strawberry dust that comes up. But, oh wow, that smells so good. Some always get stuck in the top, so you need to tap that out. But this is freeze-dried strawberry powder, and we're going to use this in the brioche. Now, you want to keep this covered because if it sits out at room temperature, you want to keep it covered until you need it. If it sits out at room temperature, it'll start to clump up. So I'm just going to put it back inside of this and just close it up. Set it aside until I need that. Now let's move on to the cream cheese mixture. So I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice. This is just to break up the cream cheese, and it also adds a nice little balance. So when you add the powdered sugar, you won't get, it won't be too sweet tasting. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and add that powdered sugar right in. And you can make this as sweet or as little sweet as you like. Just remember, the brioche itself is not sweet. So if you were aiming for a sweet dough or sweet bread, you do want to add some sort of sugar something to it at some point. Whether it's Nutella or blueberry jam or whatever you want it to add, you want to make sure you add it in there. Okay, just give this a nice mix. And you don't need to go too crazy about making this smooth. It doesn't need to be smooth because you're just going to spread it on the dough before you roll it up. So it doesn't need to be smooth. So I'm just going to mix this in, and that's good. That's done. The cream cheese strawberry filling is ready. Now the dough has risen. As you can see, it has more than doubled in size, which is exactly what we want. Because for this type of dough and this quantity of dough, it does need to double a little more than double. So maybe double and 3/4. So we started out, it was at 2. As you can see, the dough has pretty much tripled in size, and it's heading towards quadrupled. Now, I'm happy with the size that it is now. I don't think it needs to rise anymore. You can push it to quadruple, but brioche doesn't really need to quadruple in size. Tripling is plenty, and in some cases, for some recipes, you just want to stick with doubling. But I'm perfectly happy with this. So it's time to shape this dough into some loaves of brioche bread. So the first thing I want to do is just sprinkle a tiny bit of flour right onto the top of the dough. That just helps to make sure that it's not automatically sticking to the surface. And I'm just going to gently tip it out. So yeah, there she comes. That's why you spray it, so it'll come out. Come on, come on. I know it's hard. You've been in here for a couple hours. There she goes. And so I'm gonna set this aside, but not finished with it, because I'm gonna divide this dough in half because I don't need all of this, as I said. So therefore, I'm just gonna split it in half, and I'm going to weigh this. I've got my scale over here. I'm going to weigh this just to make sure that what I have is half. This one, okay. Take it back out. There. I suspect you were bigger, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut off a tiny bit of you, because I suspect you are bigger. Could be wrong, but we'll see. Okay. I wasn't wrong. That one was bigger. Okay. So just divide. I'm going to add a little bit more to this one, because I think that would kind of tip this one over to be the biggest. Okay, perfect. So now this batch of dough I'm going to cover and use for something else. And at this point, I'm going to just put this in the fridge. Make sure it stays nice and cold. Now I'm going to take the remaining dough and I'm going to divide it into pieces. So just cut it in half, and I'm going to weigh out each piece just to make sure that each piece is the right size. So I need 130 grams. I need a little bigger than that. So we need about 150 grams. There we go. 150 grams pieces a piece. Just each portion of dough, you're too big, needs to be 150 grams. Okay. So I got the last piece of dough portion out, and I don't need a scale anymore at this point. Now I'm just going to take these pieces of dough, because they need to be a tiny bit more uniform. I'm just going to roll them into a little ball, and then just give it a little bit of a roll on the counter like that, and set it aside. Do the same thing with each ball of dough. Just set it on the counter and give it a little bit of a roll. Set it aside. What you're doing is you're kind of training the bread to, you can do it with 2 fingers, 2 hands, but 1 hand is sufficient. There we are. So I covered these with a tea towel and let them rest for a few minutes. Now it's time to shape them again into buns. So this time we're just going to be a little bit more tighter with our shaping by simply taking the edges and tucking and folding with your thumb like that until you feel the dough start to resist. Then take your hands and roll it into a tight little ball like that. You can set that aside and do the same thing with this one. Just fold once again. It's kind of like the first thing was pre-shaping. First step was pre-shaping, and now we're actually doing the shaping. Just as if you were doing, you know, like a dinner roll or something like that, which these would make delicious dinner rolls. Oh boy, they would be good. Now I have a square baking pan ready to go. Now this is a 2-pound loaf tin. This is a European baking pan. They are very hard to find in the United States. I know, extremely difficult to find. But if you happen to find one in the United States, by all means, grab it when you see it, because they are not the easiest thing to find. And you just want to place each one. Gotta give yourself a little bit of room. Y'all budge up and let her in. Okay. Place each ball of dough inside of the tin. Now they're way down in there, but as they rise, they will rise up and fill the pan. So you just want to recover this. You can use plastic wrap. You can use a damp tea towel. You could also use those little plastic shower cap covers. And then just set this in a warm place and let it rise until the dough rise up to the rim of the pan. It can go up to 1 inch over the rim of the pan, but don't overproof it because then they can collapse. So I'm just going to set this aside and let it rise until it has tripled this time in size. This is a basic brioche loaf number 1. Now for the other 3 balls of dough, we're going to roll this into we're going to form this a different way because we're going to put a filling in it. So we're going to form it in a slightly different way. So I'm just going to put down the tiniest bit of flour, not too much. And give me a little bit of room here, y'all. I'm going to roll this into a kind of a square rectangle. It may stick, so just flip it over. There we are. One side of dough is always tacky and the other side is always not, because one side is what hits the air surface and one side does not. So I'm just going to roll this into a little rectangle. Doesn't need to be very, very wide, but you want it wide enough so that you can get your filling in it. That's wide enough. And I am going to add, here's the cream cheese mixture that we made. I'm going to add that right onto, and I'm going to leave a good border around it because you don't want this to just immediately begin to ooze out. It's probably going to ooze a little. You don't want it to start immediately oozing. Okay, spread that down. And since we've got 3, you kind of want to divide this between the 3. Now, here is the freeze-dried strawberries that we powdered earlier. And I'm just going to, as I say, this lumps up considerably. So you always need to kind of either re-spin it or re-stir it because it lumps up. But it's fine. It's going in here, so we don't have to worry about the lumps. So I'm just going to sprinkle this freeze-dried powder right on top. And this is pretty intense, so you don't need a ton of it. Just enough on the inside. And then I am going to fold this dough over just like this. Fold it over just like that, and then take this in and fold it over just like that. You're just encasing the freeze-dried strawberry and the cream cheese inside of the dough. Pinch the ends, make sure it doesn't come out, and then just turn it over and give it a little pinch. Seal it off rather well. You don't want it to be unsealed. Okay. Now we take the rolling pin and we're just going to give this a very light roll, just to kind of, that's why you want to make sure that you pinch it well. Give it a very light roll, just to kind of spread it out a little bit, not much, but just a little bit. There we go. And now you want to make sure you continue working seam side up. You're going to roll this into a roll just like that. And I like to flatten out the ends on the very bottom and then roll it up like that. You get this neat little roll. And then pinch it where the end meet. You want to pinch it because it have a tendency to unspring itself. It's going to do it to a degree anyway. Can't really stop it, but you can kind of prevent it from doing it too much. And there you have a little spiral with the strawberry and the cream cheese hidden inside. Now, let's do that again. Let's take the next one. A little bit of flour, just a little bit. You want the dough to remain tacky. You don't want it to be too, too well floured, because then it won't stick to itself, and you do want it to stick to itself. So roll it out again into a little rectangle. And then we go in with the cream cheese mixture right down the middle. Make sure you leave the edges clear because we're going to do some pinching. Okay. I love strawberries and cream cheese. Oh boy, strawberries and cream cheese is delicious. Okay. And now for some more of the strawberry powder, which is starting to misbehave, but it's fine. It's just doing what strawberry powder do. Okay. And yeah, I've got just enough for the last one. Okay. And now do the same thing. Fold this in over and then fold it over and pinch to close the edges. You want to do that fairly immediately. Okay. And just roll it out a little, just like that. I'm not using pressure on the rolling pin. I need a little space, y'all. I'm not putting pressure on the rolling pin. I'm just letting it roll at its own rolling pace or rolling pressure. Okay. And then roll it up. There we are. And then pinch, 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 pinch. And always set it down on that seam. Okay, we've got all 3 of the rolls all nicely lined up and ready to go into the pan. Now, this pan that I have here is the same type pan that we used earlier, but I've put a parchment sling on the inside of this pan just because, for 2 reasons. Number 1, it will help you kind of lift it out of the pan a little easier. And number 2, because there's sugar in here, you kind of want to make sure that if anything oozes out, it doesn't just stick completely to the bottom. A little bit on the sides is fine, but you can still get it a little loose. So just put each one in, seam side down. There we are. And then in goes the last one. They're such pretty little fat spirals. Oh, they're so cute. Now, I have learned that sometimes it helps if you turn the pan up like this and then put the 3rd one in. You want to make sure they're all going in the same direction. There we go. The 3rd one goes in a lot easier if you turn the pan right up like that because that kind of pushes them down. And there we are. So now they are in. You want to do the same thing. Cover these with a damp tea towel or a little plastic cap. And then set it aside in a warm place and let it rise. Now the brioche loaves have risen. And this one has risen. This is the plain one. It's risen a little more than the one with the cream cheese in it. I'm happy with that because this one does not need to rise as much because of the filling that's in the inside. That's gonna, if it overproofs, it could potentially seep out. So this is a good rising point for that one. So now I'm just going to brush these loaves with a bit of egg wash. And I'm just going to use the yolk. I'm not going to use the white. There is plenty of butter and sugar and eggs and all of those things that will give you a lovely brown top with just the egg white alone. So save the yolk. We're not going to throw that away. We'll use that. And then just kind of break the white up just a tiny bit. There's no need to add water or anything. Just whisk it a little bit to break it up. And now brush the tops of the loaves. And you really do want to focus on the top. Don't brush the edges because if you do, what happens is your brioche will literally glue itself to the sides of the pan. I've done it many's the time. If you make a mistake and happen to do it, it's understandable because sometimes it will, the egg white will run into the sides of the pan anyway. But avoid it if you can because it will glue it to the sides of the pan. But make sure you get those seams. And there we are. The egg white will give it a lovely brown color. It also will give the dough a little bit of time to expand more because it's going in with a damp top versus a drier top. And then just brush this one. Same thing. Now the oven is preheated to 355 degrees. And I'm just going to get these right into the oven and let them bake. So into the oven they both go. Okay, the brioche is done and it is out of the oven and it's cooled considerably. Now, still a little bit warm, but it's okay. I can feel it. It's still warm, but it's okay to turn it out at this point. So, because we sprayed it with the non-stick baking spray, it should slip right out. And she does. Very nice. Oh, wow. It's so pretty and it's so golden. And it's so light. Like it's like a pillow. Literally, it's like a pillow. Now, this is the strawberry cream cheese brioche. And because we made that little oven sling, all we have to do is pick it up and out she comes. Just like that. And it didn't ooze. Ah, that's good because cream cheese loves to bubble in the oven. So all I need to do is just take it off the sling and see, take it off the sling. Sling is clean, so none of the cream cheese mixture oozed out. And all these are going to be so good and so delicious. I can't wait to cut into this one, of course. Of course, you know I can't wait to cut into the strawberry cream cheese one. Now, I'm going to cut into this loaf just so we can see the beautiful spiral. But I am just going, because it's in 3 sections, it's quite easy to just tear each section apart, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to cream cheese and strawberries. Oh wow. Smells so good. Oh wow, this smells so good. Look at the strawberry on the inside. Oh wow. This smells good. Now, as I said, this needs no other adornment, but I'm just going to cut myself a neat ladylike slice. I'm not just going to tear into it. Okay, so I did tear into it, but I'm going to cut my slice. Now, this will cut better if you let it cool because it's still warm. So it'll cut a lot neater if you let it cool, but I'm not going to wait. I am just going to cut myself a slice, and then I'm just going to tear myself a slice. Smells good. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, wow. That is good. Strawberry. Not too sweet. We got a beautiful little kick from the cream cheese. I think I want a little more of that. This is good. That is so delicious, and it is so worth the calories. If you're going to eat something, if it's going to be a treat and it's going to have a good amount of calories in it, it needs to be worth it. And this, whether you go with the plain one or you go with the strawberry and cream cheese loaf, it is well worth the calories. I hope you would give this recipe a try. It is a bit more involved, so it's not like, one and done, quick mix, into the oven she goes. Not this one, but now you have a basic master recipe for brioche that you can turn into many delicious things. not just breads or buns, but you can make hot dog buns, hamburger buns. You can turn this into a laminated pastry and make Danish or whatever you want to make. This is a delicious, rich, buttery recipe for your baking. And you can surprise your friends and family saying, ta-da! I made you a loaf of brioche. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you won't miss out anytime I upload new videos, new episodes, new series, or some shorts, because I like to upload a lot of shorts, give you all a quick sneak peek sometimes into what's going on in the kitchen. And the good Lord willing, I will see you guys again in another video. Take care, y'all.